Hello, today we're going to start debugging. So we have set up our Docker.io based container. We connected our Visual Studio already, so everything is running, everything's fine. And now we are starting developing our plugin. And now we want to start debugging so we can set a breakpoint attached to the container and then there and see what's going on. So the goal is then to debug the Dockware sample plugin, which comes with the Dockware dev image. We will set a breakpoint investigate some vars to have a possibility or to know how to set this up. So same picture now, but some prerequisites are changed. So we additionally now need to install the PHP debug extension, and also inside the Chrome, which I use, we need to set up Xdebug helper to connect this. So now let's switch to Visual Studio. And we are already connected to the container. We have a look at the plugins folder. So if you go to HTML custom plugins folder, there's a Docker sample plugin, which is provided by Das Web through the dev image. There are also some nice make files to have a look at, really also PHP units. So if you want to start with testing, and also Sten and so on. So really great starting point for your plugin development. So we go to the source folder. There we have some files, resources, subscriber, the sample plugin PHP. We go to the subscriber, and inside the subscriber we see, hey, there is already something prepared for us. And on storefront render, here is the subscribed event, and it calls this method, and there's something done. So in the end, I will just set a breakpoint here and see what's happened inside. So if I go to my browser, I have here my browser up and running. I already installed you see it here, the debugger debug tool helper. If I go to Xdebug helper, it's this one here, Xdebug helper. You can add it to Chrome, and then if it's added, one point you have to consider, you go to options, and then IDE keys should be changed. If you remember, as we set up our environment, I go now to CC repos. This is 6 dev code. Open this. And if I see the Docker Composer YAML, and you can remember one of the first videos, PHP IDE config IDE key was set to VS Code. Usually here is Eclipse or NetBeans or something else is set. We need to set VS Code, so the header set up or provided correctly. So save this, that's it. Nothing else have to be set up, but this IDE key should match this one in the Docker Compose YAML, which was used to spin up the container. So great, that's done. We close this. So that's my front end. So everything fine here. That's the helper is there. It's not active now, so there's no header added. So we go back. We also need to prepare Visual Studio Code. Therefore, we need this extension, this PHP debug extension. Here we have this. We can install it. Now it's installed. If I go back to extensions again, or click it again, sorry, clear this. So local installed, it means on my host environment, and here you see additionally container. So PHP debug is now installed just inside the container. That should be considered. So if you are setting up a new container and wondering why PHP debug is not there, so you have maybe to install it just on your host. So if you open Visual Studio Code again, PHP, you see you can install PHP debug here, debug install. So you see it's appearing here now, but we can still remove it from the container. It's not now, not inside the container, but we can reload it. So let me see what happened now. So, and yeah, no, I clicked on the wrong place, but that would have to be considered. So it could be in the container, it could be in the local environment, and if it's in the local environment, you still have to refresh or install it inside the container so it works properly. Good. Let's go back to the files. So we have the subscribe file, everything fine. I want here now the breakpoint, and or maybe here in the first place, but now I need to start the debugger. I therefore go here, start debug, go back, go to run and debug section. There's still nothing prepared. I need first to create a launch JSON file. I click here, yes, create it inside the HTML folder, great. Now I get the launch JSON file, and inside the launch JSON file, the most important part is the port. It's always set to 9003, but our Xdebug is listening to the port 9000. So I changed this. I can remove this, guys, because I don't need this. That's just enough for me. I save this, and now I can launch my listen for Xdebug. That's the name here. I hit this one, and I see here, okay, it's debugging. That's the port that's available, and now I put it here, switch to my Visual Studio, and if I hit one of the navigation points, we should hit the breakpoint because we have a subscriber which is listening on storefront render or storefront render event, and should put here. So click this. Oh, great. That's amazing. Super. So that's work. Now we have the variables here. Data is uninitialized, makes sense because it would be in the next step. We have the event, so where it's coming from, some parameters, what was passing by, so the request object, context, and so on. So that's a lot of information, super globals, user-defined constants, and so on. So great point to debug. I can have also here hover over the event. I see all the parameters also here, can investigate them here. I can step here, step over or via F10, or step into if there's a method that I want to go inside, step outside if I am inside a method, then I will go back. Also, what's worth to mention is the call stack, but I think each dev should know what it is and what's useful for, so I can start and see where the wall request started. So I see vendor, shopware, core, HTTP kernel. So there where the wall or part of the journey starts, and I can go and see, okay, here's the public index PHP. So that's where everything starts. So maybe I can investigate this if I want to understand better how shopware works, how this stuff fits together. And I can go through each of these frames, call stack frames, and see what happened. Or I go directly to my part and say F10. Next step, great. So data is initialized, Docker 1, it's good. Event set parameter, the parameter will be sent, and then it goes out. So I can step next. So I'm now inside the invoke method, go further, and or I just hit continue. It runs again. It's now hit one more time. Why? Because we are on some cart widget action. Okay, so storefront render seems to run multiple times also on the widgets. So that's a nice information for me to understand how this works. And go ahead and it's done. So everything fine here. If I hit it again, it again hits the breakpoint. If I remove the breakpoint and say, okay, go ahead, it runs to the next one. So yeah, that's to be considered to disable here. It does not listen if you disable it here. And of course, you can stop now the debugger, start it again. And yeah, that's how you can debug your code and investigate some issues or try to understand how shopware works. So therefore, you can, of course, also get to one vendors folder, go to let me find shopware, and here we have also the shopware front end, storefront. So you could also start somewhere here and set the breakpoint to try to understand how the parts are fit together, how it works, how everything else works. One tip also, if you start debugging, it does not really hit your breakpoint, you can go again to the run and debug. And here inside the breakpoints, so we start it again. And here we can set to everything to just to check if it's really works. And now if I hit this, of course it does not work because I have to set this one. Now you see everything, debug PHP, so it will really hit everything, all its kind of sign, okay, that's connected correctly together. So for debugging, for investigation, what the debugger doesn't work, this everything is a great place to start to investigate why the debugger doesn't work. Good. So that's it. So now we are able to debug our application, debug shopware if needed to understand how it works. And back to the presentation. Thanks for watching. Here are some links. They will be attached to the video. And